That extra bit of care really means a lot.
You're welcome.
All right, sir, it is good to go.
Okay, then. Good evening, everybody. My name is Peter Burnett. I'm the chair of the Capital Improvements Plan Committee meeting. Due to the, let me go back to that. I just talked about it and then I lost it. Okay. Due to the COVID-19 crisis and in accordance with Governor Sununu's Emergency Order Number 12 and Executive Order 2020-04, this meeting is to be conducted electronically. The public has access to listen to and participate in this meeting by using the following link, and it's pretty long, the Zoom meeting and entering the password. So you go to Zoom and you enter in webinar ID 828-7789-5720. Again, that's 828-7789-5720. The webinar password is 941215. Again, 941215. The meeting link is also in the agenda, which is posted on the city's website, which is laconianh.gov. If you wish to listen only, not participate via Zoom, you can call 1-312-626-6799. That's 312-626-6799 or 646-558-8656. That's 646-558-8656. Using this option only allows you to listen to the meeting. You wouldn't have any opportunity to participate if there was a part of the meeting for calling for public comments. If you have any problems connecting, please call us at 603-527-3877, extension 249, or simply email planning@laconianh.gov. If you want to view the meeting live on YouTube, you can go to the Laconia NH channel on YouTube. That's https://www.youtube.com/Laconia NH, all one word, lowercase. Due to technical difficulties, we're no longer broadcasting these meetings on Atlantic Broadband on the community channel. So the meeting having been called to order, could we have the roll call, please, of those who are present this evening?
Hey, good evening. Stacy Susie.
Good
Home,
evening.
alone.
Oh, yes, you have to state whether you're with someone for the 91A.
Okay, Sarah Jenna.
I am here. I do have people in the other room, but not in this room.
Okay.
And Peter Burnett.
Present and alone, ma'am.
Dean Anson.
Here.
Peter Stewart.
Here and alone.
Paul Dugan.
Here with dog.
Name of dog, please.
Duke.
Duke. Well, the record show Duke is present with Mr. Dugan.
Mike Foote.
Here.
Mark Haynes.
Here.
Bruce Cheney.
Here.
And Bob Hamill.
Here.
Well, all right, I'd say we have a quorum. Most certainly say that. Staff in attendance, just state your names for the record, if you would, please.
Robert Mora, Assistant Planner.
Are you the recording secretary as well this evening?
No.
Karen Santoronto, acting
Okay.
as recording secretary.
Okay, thank you very much. You should have all received copies of the minutes from the previous meeting. Does anybody have any questions or make any suggestions regarding the minutes before we move for an acceptance? Sensing none, would someone care to make a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved, Peter Stewart.
Moved by Mr. Stewart. Is there a
Second.
second? Okay. Can we-
Made the second.
Yes, we have a second. Is there any discussion on the motion to approve the minutes? Sensing none, we need a roll call vote again, please.
Can we just clarify who made the motion for the second?
The second was, I thought, Stacy. Was that correct?
No, I thought it was Paul, but I can second it if you want.
Who wishes to assume responsibility for this awesome task?
I did second, but it didn't sound like anybody heard it.
Okay, well, let the record
I have Mr. Duke
show
as the
that
second.
I'm hard of hearing. All right, motion's been made and seconded. And is there any further discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Okay, Stacy Susie,
Yeah.
Sarah Jenna,
Yes.
Peter Burnett,
Yes,
Dean Anson,
Yes.
Peter Stewart,
Yes.
Paul Dugan,
Yes.
Mike Foot,
Yes.
Mark Haynes,
Yes.
Bruce Cheney,
Yes.
and Bob Hamel.
Yes.
okay, the motion carries. The minutes of the previous meeting have been accepted. We'll now move on to the presentations of departments, and no further ado, we'll turn the podium over to the Director of Public Works, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you. I'm Wes Anderson, Director of Public Works for the city. And if you have questions at any time, please stop. That's today's agenda for today. I'm going to cover the major changes, really focusing on out years, program year, and the annual program. Then cover sanitary sewer and the updated projects.
I believe you're muted. Are you muted?
I have no idea.
Got a real bad echo.
I can hear him, so he's broadcasting to Zoom.
Okay. I didn't know I have to take myself off of mute.
Sorry about that.
Okay. There we go.
There we go.
All right. Is it better?
Much better.
Okay. All right. So for the major changes that we have between last year and this year, of course, Court Street's complete, and we've awarded the Court Street Bridge project. The utilities are going to be done in the fall, early winter, and then the bridge will actually be replaced in the springtime. Union Elm to Stark is, of course, complete. And you may have been seeing some of the conversations going on. We have a major project going on, for the most part, on the side roads in the Elm Street Lakeport area, and I'll cover more on that later. One piece of information just has recently come up, and that is Brady Sullivan has started asking for proposals for constructing the roads in Langley Cove. If they do start in this upcoming year, before they can do the first house, they have to replace about 1,200 feet of water main in Weirs Boulevard before they can start constructing the first building. So that could have impact on what you see project-wise in the city. And then Academy Street Bridge, State Red List Bridge, is scheduled for fiscal year 2022. And our share is 210,000 of that project right now. We funded 40, so that means it's an additional 170 that has to be budgeted for in the upcoming budget. From the traffic signal standpoint, we've completed 4 of the 8 city traffic signals. 2 are programmed to be done in conjunction with Union Ave Road project from basically Maine to Guilford Ave, and you'll see that come up later. And then we have 2 that have not been budgeted yet, and we have included that in the upcoming CIP. To help us in developing our short-range plans, we've started to do some long-range planning on our major roads to help us identify when we have to do things to either the major roads in between to get them that long, or what money we have available for other roads. So right now, conceptually, we're talking about, we think we'll have to do something between Stark Street and Blackbrook on Union sometime in the 2026 timeframe. Main to Guilford around 2030, and then Union Blackbrook to Lake Street in the 2032 timeframe. Court Street Bridge to Belmont and Weirs Boulevard are after that, so that has generated plans from our standpoint of how we're going to get it to that date, and we know we're going to have to do some form of shimming, thin coat of asphalt to get them to stretch for that long. From the bridge standpoint, the state's wood bridge at Weirs Beach, the one that goes over the railroad tracks at Centenary Ave, is still in the schedule for 2025 to be removed. The state has money in it to fix or to modify the Centenary Weeks Road intersections to make up for the loss of the bridge. The state bridge aid is still overcommitted. We're getting a little bit of information from the state on what they think is going to happen, but not much at this point. What we do know is that the earliest any other bridge in the state will be considered to be in the program is 2031, which means Langley, Cove, and Hilliard Road are ones that we're talking about, or at least sometime, could be 2031, but Langley Cove is probably closer to the end of the 30s, early 40s, and then Hilliard would be after that if it gets accepted into the program. Impact on the city standpoint is we've got to be able to keep our bridges in good enough shape that their capacity is not being dropped or downrated between then and the time frame we can get it in the program. These are the 4 bridges that we think we're going to have to do something between now and 2025, 2026 timeframe. The estimates that you see there were based off of analysis that was done by our inspectors who looked at all the bridges in the city. There's one other bridge that we have that's on the red list, and that's the downtown pedestrian bridge, which is right beside us. That project is not eligible for state bridge aid money. So if we're going to replace it, we either have to pay 100% of the cost, or we have to see if we can get some grant at the federal level. Yes.
The bridge, the wooden bridge over the railroad tracks up the Weirs.
Yes. Again, that's a state call. They haven't started the planning process on it. That's an option that we can have during the planning process, but they don't want it as a vehicle bridge anymore.
Did the other members of the committee hear that question? I don't think we
No,
heard it.
I
We
didn't.
We
No.
didn't hear it out here in Zoom land. If you,
The ability to.
Mike's muted.
Certainly that bridge also there in the Weirs.
You're muted, Mike.
The ability for pedestrian.
Rob, unmute him, please.
All
There
right,
you go. Hi, Mike.
all right, back again.
Yes, you're live.
Perfect. I just want to put in on that bridge in the Weirs there, certainly, and it contributes to pedestrian access in a neighborhood there. And there is something to be said for maintaining it for light access, vice vehicles.
Which bridge are you talking
It's
about?
right. It's a railroad bridge that's being due to take out here when they talk about Centenary Weeks and a removal in 2025.
Right.
You know, it needs some maintenance, but certainly in the neighborhood, it's a way to get around.
Understood. There was an identical bridge on Moulton Street many years ago in Lakeport,
Correct.
which they replaced with a new pedestrian bridge. So maybe they could do that for us again.
It's worth asking.
Yes.
Indeed. You may continue, Mr. Anderson.
Okay. So other out-year projects include the city docks, the project that we have started the process on, which is the boating infrastructure grant. Only covers that portion of the dock that is in deeper than 6 feet. So you'll see the numbers later, but the city's going to have to cover about $63,000 of that project to do the remodification of the dock. We still have the north end of the boardwalk that is pressure treated wood. The City Hall parking lot, which is really tied into a decision with the parking garage. The Morin Road landfill remediation, drainage projects throughout the city, and the public works building. Oh.
Those flushable wipes again, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. One project that is sort of a cross between a annual type program, a one-time project is the ADA program. Just a reminder, that is a federal requirement, was established in the 1990s. Any municipality that has 50 employees has to have a self-assessment done and then develop a transition plan from that self-assessment. Our last self-assessment was in 1990s and there was never a transition plan developed. So we're in-house, we're updating the self-assessment for all of the facilities and the programs in the city. And we're asking for $30,000 to assist us in taking that self-assessment, estimating all the costs and prioritizing it so we can prepare a transition plan to go to the city council for approval. There are 2 residence requests that we have right now for ADA improvements. One is the approving ADA accessibility from Sunrise Towers at the intersection of Main Street and Court all the way up to Apici Park. And the other is an ADA accessible crosswalk at Endicott Street North in the vicinity of Cumberland Farms, Meredith Bridge Village. The ADA accessibility for Sunrise Towers to Apici Park, we've really been working on already. We've got the intersection at Court and Main done, and we got the intersection at Main and Church done. So we really got to do the next piece is the intersection of Oak and North Main. And there's some other work that we have to do in between, but that's the big piece.
Question on the ADA. Now over here on Court and Main, you have the do not turn right once the crosswalk lights come on. Why don't you have that at Church?
It's actually not required for an ADA. Because of the amount of volume and traffic at that intersection, we thought that was a better option to sort of stress, that they're not supposed to be turning right, which is what all the writing is not supposed to do when someone's in the crosswalk.
Yeah, well, the one at Church Street and Main Street, that's a heavily used crosswalk area also. And it probably would be worthwhile to put some do not turn right when the crosswalks are going, because they don't stop when it's the white, never mind the red flashing. But I've noticed they are stopping more because you've got that light over there, and maybe we ought to look into doing that there too. Because like I said, it's a lot of people cross right in through there. What do those run to do that?
We'd have to look at the project costs because we know it for the whole intersection. We don't know for subsets of that.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. So for program year, we've already talked it to a degree. We've got the city share of the dock modification project, which is either be fiscal year 21 or fiscal year 22, depending upon when all the paperwork is done and when the grant is. From the safety standpoint, we've included the pedestrian activated rapid flashing beacon system at South Main Street at Vista. Some seed money for Langley Cove Bridge to help maybe convince the state to put it into the program. And then because we don't know what's happening in the future in regards to the Wild Trail or actually getting bike and pedestrians to Weirs Beach, we still think we need to look at what sort of improvements and what sort of plan could be developed for a bike or pedestrian way to go from basically Lake Street all the way up to the roundabout on Weirs Boulevard. This is not a design. This is mainly trying to figure out where we can fit it. Do we need to get more right away? Do we need to get less right away? Where do we put it? It's more of a planning study. We also are asking for funds. We're going to attempt to get most of it through grant, but there may be matching requirements to put our first electric vehicle charging station in, and we want to put it at the city parking lot. So that'd be the first public parking electric vehicle station in the city. And then the last time we did aerial mapping for the city overall was 2016. It's getting a little dated. We put in the budget, the proposal for 25,000 to do another flyover to update our maps. For the annual programs, maintenance and repair of city streets is typically someplace around 1.5 to 1.6 million. This current year is at just over 1.41. Part of that is due to bond payments that we're paying already for bonds that are already in for streets. Part of it is also a reduction in the state share of that little bit of money we get from the gas tax money. In the upcoming years, of course, we'll be making bond payments for the proposed 1.6 million that we've asked for at the last council meeting to be able to work some of the work in the Lakeport area. And you'll see more of that come in the future slides. Citywide drainage, we are still not technically a municipal separate stormwater sewer system. We meet the requirements for it, but EPA's plans are basically they're bringing the communities in the south of New Hampshire and working their way north. They're presently in the Allentown, Pembroke area working their way up. So in the next couple of years, we will probably be in the program. That is similar to the ADA program in that you have to have what is wrong and a plan to fix it, in addition to, anything that comes up from development wise or project wise has to meet it. What you see for typical drainage, we get some money for separate engineering studies. That includes design and actual studies on what to do in an area. And the stormwater drainage are typically those independent projects that we have to do to fix an issue someplace. Just to give you an order of magnitude, we put a new drain line that went from Chapin Terrace through one lot to get to the lake to be able to empty it. And that ran us about $90,000 when you count all the requirements that Department of Environmental Services puts upon us for new outlets to the lake. Sidewalks is similar to our pavement management program. We're looking to increase that from 25,000 to 50,000 to be able to get us some additional sidewalks that are not on roads that we're have planned. Fence guardrails is unchanged, and annual bridge, we just asked for a $5,000 increase to be able to do that small stuff that we try to do the bridges annually, wash them, get the salt off of them, fix any of the joints. That's what we typically spend that money for. Some annual programs continued. The parking garage, we typically spend about $20,000 a year for inspections and I'll call it interim temporary repairs to keep the second deck open. The current past fiscal year, we were close to about 40,000 because of the nature of repairs. We've just finished the inspection for this year. I anticipate that we'll have some more repairs to do. The cost of that in the future will be based upon when we make a decision on what we're going to do with the parking garage. The Morin Road Landfill Remediation Project is basically $10,000 a year for planning, design, to get all the permits that we need to actually then design the project to remediate it.
Is there any contamination associated with that landfill?
What we do know right now from what we've done is this past, I want to say year, we've been taking samples of the ground to determine where the trash is. There are no really wells on it to determine what's in it, but we know what the extent of the trash is.
What was the question? What was the question? I didn't hear it. Somebody's mic was muted, I think.
My question was, is there any contamination associated with the landfill?
The Morin Road?
Right.
Okay. All right.
And you'll see a picture of it later on when we talk more.
Okay.
DPW vehicle purchase, for a long time, we were getting 190,000 per year for it. We're asking that to be increased from 210,000, which is what we were bumped up this year for, to 215, just really to pick up for inflation and the increased cost of trucks associated with all the environmental regulations that they have to meet now. We've got a couple of proposals. One is the gravel road maintenance program recurring, asking separate funding aside for the few gravel roads that are actually city public ways right now. if we don't get it, we're going to have to get to a point where we'll be taking that money out of the road program to be able to do the work. And we're really talking Eastman Shore Road South, Crockett, and a portion of Severance. Those are the accepted gravel city streets. The downtown pedestrian bridge has been recommended for annual inspections. It's basically built the same way as the parking garage. And we've got enough rust and everything on it that we need to start doing the annual inspections to make sure it's still safe to let pedestrians cross. Parking garage alternatives. There's two main groupings of numbers. If you look going across the top of that first row, there's two options for rehabilitation. One was 4.5, do both decks. If you want to do one deck, it was 3.8. We used the costs that were developed for that to do some estimates for the cost of other options. If you repair the second deck as a roof, take the garage out of service, but that means the garage is still there, we're probably in the vicinity of about 1.18 mil. To deconstruct the garage so it's not there and you turn basically the building back into a roof, it's no longer a parking, we're probably closer to 2. Again, that'll be dependent upon what we decide, what the council decides, and when they decide to do it. DPW vehicle replacement program. Again, we're focusing on the future and what new vehicle types that we need to add to the fleet to support the new operational techniques and procedures that are coming out in the field. Again, both inflation and the federal diesel emission standards increase the cost of the vehicles that we're buying. In previous year in 2020, we had 190,000. For this year, we got 210. We're asking for a little bit more in 2021 to keep up with the inflation and to sort of catch up at the same time. One interesting piece to it is our current bond and lease payments that come out of this is about $100,000 per year. So for this year, we really have $110,000 to spend. To give you an order of magnitude estimate, one of the new trucks that you see here costs about $178,000 for us to purchase, and a sidewalk tractor that you see with a plow and blower, if it's wheeled, it's in the vicinity of about 110. If it's tracked, it's in the vicinity of 140,000. So that's the nature of what it costs for our fleet when we're going out there working. Fast slide on the age of the fleet. You can see the first blue line on the left for each grouping is the number of vehicles that we have. And then the next shows how many that we have of what age. Realistically, what we did for the last year to about year and a half, we were focused on replacing our F550s that we use for plowing. And for the most part, we've gotten it done. We're waiting for one more vehicle to come in, and we'll be in fairly good shape for 550s. We'll have to start looking at sidewalk tractors and basically the large trucks, in the next few years. Okay, for the Public Works compound, I'm using that term loosely to talk about things that are really just for Public Works. Our current 4-post vehicle lift, which actually came out of the Mantor garage, I think it was, really doesn't have the capability to lift our new 550s. They weigh too much. So we're asking for enough funds to purchase a new vehicle lift, and we've got to modify the garage door to be able to clear, to be able to lift the vehicles up. So that's about $30,000. Document storage system. If you've ever been in my building and look where we keep all of our historical records for maps of the city, the layouts of the roads, it's packed. If we ever have a fire or water damage in there, we've lost a lot of history that we can't regenerate. So we're trying to get it all converted over. So we started off with our layout history, and we're just going to keep biting it through time, $10,000 a year until we can get it really automated and digitized. So if we do have an event, we're not going to lose all our records. Plotters used by everyone in the city. That's about 5 years old. It's now at the point where we've got to start thinking about replacing it to keep up with its demand. And the Morin Road landfill is basically, $10,000 per year until such time as we're ready to go into the actual design phase for the remediation. And that will be then when we come in for the request for the more money. And then, of course, DPW building itself. This picture is of the Morin Road landfill. What we have found in the records, it was closed as a landfill in 1962, but was still used for a construction demolition debris site that mass of light colored sort of in the center, lower center of the map, the picture that you see, that is a hill that was created by the city with all the construction and demolition debris that's in it. So that's one of the things that, you know, we're going to have to be considering as part of the project, how to take care of that. Interesting enough, the site goes into two municipalities. It's 14.4 acres in Laconia, and then we've got another 47 acres in Guilford. Most of the trash is on our side of Durkee Brook. So some of it is on ours, some of it's in city, and some of it's in Guilford. Morin Road landfill, life after remediation is what we're thinking of, is actually what we're calling construction material recycling center. And we're not talking about accepting it from other agencies. We're really talking about what we generate, you know, either in-house with our forces or with our contractors, so we can recycle our curb, our asphalt, and concrete debris. Right now, our leaves and grass go to Guilford to be composted and turned into topsoil and compost. Pardon? They did. They opened it back up for us. And last year they stopped it again, but that was all associated when they were upgrading their facility for a full transfer station. The reason why we're having it planned for this one possibility is in case we're not able to take it to Guilford in the future. And then the other piece is limited reuse soils. Those are the soils that are street sweepings, catch basin cleanings, and the top 6 inches of soil that's underneath the asphalt and underneath the shoulder of the road. Those are considered contaminated, not hazardous, and we are not allowed to take it off to another site that is uncontaminated. And if we want to move it from the right of way, we have to have a permit to do it, unless we're taking it down for treatment and louding. So one of the options we're really looking at is, can we basically treat it ourselves, just through aeration and mixing with uncontaminated soil to reduce our costs. DPW building itself, most of you already know it's not feasible to repair. We're working on the planning for this, and really dependent upon what plan and what we do is whether these other projects are necessary. But these are items that we have to consider as we go through the planning process. On the sanitary sewer side of the house, you can see what we have as our normal annual program. The gravity sewer repair, those linings, repairs that are not associated with the road project. The sewer upgrade is when it's part of a road project, and the interceptor are our large pipes that basically follow the lake front where all the water sewage goes to before it goes to the state. And we're really focusing on lining that to prevent infiltration and any costs in the future of paying for treating stormwater. Pump station building improvements. Basically, we have 16 tiny houses out there that we have to maintain. This fixes roofs, doors, or whatever. And then asset management is basically developing a system that records every single piece of equipment we have, knows what the criticality is, what the lifespan is, and helps us in managing our maintenance efforts and our replacement costs in the future. Continuing on the sanitary sewer fund, some individual projects in the upcoming year, 3 pump stations that we got to upgrade our electrical system, basically backup generators and some of our pumps. And then we're looking at what we need to do in case of we're not able to dump at any of the lagoons in the event they close it down for us, I should say, for our Vector dump station where we're pumping out sewage. We have to take it to another site that will accept it. Right now, we take it to New Hampton's lagoons, or we have to take it all the way down to Allentown. We're looking at some of the techniques some of the other contractors use and how they do it, but basically conceptually it's a drying sort of station. You get the water treatment back into the sewage system, and then the soils get sent off to be disposed of through one of the waste companies like Casella or Waste Management. 2021 projects. Okay, the Lakeport area will cover the sewer piece first. You're going to hear the Mechanic Street area. That's really Mechanic Street, Clinton, Prospect, Cole, Hill, and Pear. Most of the sewer in this area and some across the river in the Elm Street / Belvedere area, all those sewers date back to the late 1800s, early 1900s, and we're starting to have major problems with them. So that's the object, is to take care of that part. The Elm Street piece, which is going to be bid a little bit later, be bid next year, is basically from the bridge over the river going towards the school and Hickory Stick Lane to fix that sewer in there. They are responsible for fixing the road and wherever, lane it's in. And then the road project will be picking up the other lane as part of it. And then the pump station improvements, you can see electrical and generator upgrades. Now on the road side of the house, what we're planning on basically doing is fixing Mechanic Street and fixing Elm Street. There's a little section of the bond that we're planning for Franklin Street where there is basically no drainage. It's between Washington and School Street. And then the bond payments are for the projects that you see listed there. Some future ones, again, Academy Street Bridge, program years 2022. It's actually a 3-lane bridge. One lane happens to be grassy. As part of the project, we're dropping it to 2. It is going to be similar to what happened at Weirs Beach Railroad Bridge. We're going to close it down, do accelerated bridge construction, it'll be prefabbed, and they'll drop it in to replace it. So we minimize the impact on the residents. Some out-year projects, Langley Cove Bridge. Again, the state bridge aid program is fully committed to 2030, so 2031 is the earliest. Underneath the agreement that we have with Brady Sullivan for their Langley Cove project, 1/3 of the city share of the project is supposed to be picked up by Brady Sullivan because they're going to be building a turn lane into Langley Cove on top of the bridge. So when that's built, you have three lanes now. It will still be 3 lanes to support the Brady Sullivan project. And we're going to have to program the city share when it gets added to the program. Rebuild the north end of the Weirs Boardwalk. Basically, it's the old pressure treated from there. We're spending about $1,000 to $2,000 between that and the dock every year on replacing boards. And we'll probably be doing that, and it'll be picking up over the next few years just based on the condition it's going. So we're actually thinking about putting it new composite decking so it looks like what's on the other end of the dock. And that's based off of an estimate that we pulled off of a Trex website, what they think the actual cost would be for that much square footage. Weirs Beach Dock, last project information was back in the 1990s. We haven't found any other documentations for inspection. At some point, we probably should inspect it, but the other piece to it is that, again, the pressure treat is getting old and we're having to change a lot of the boards. You will have a point where you'll have new deck, for the piece that's been modified, and you'll have the old boards. At some point, we're going to have to change it. And rather than trying to tackle it in 1 year, I tackled it over many years to do the work, because we'll have to see what the cost of pressure treated lumber changes, because right now it's sky high. And the estimate that you see here and for the next few years is based off of what we're currently paying for pressure treated wood. Downtown pedestrian bridge, again, not eligible for the state bridge aid program. We did 4 estimates depending upon what the city wants to do. If we're going to remove it, it's about $110,000. If we want to replace it, it's about $450,000. And it's around $320,000, $325,000 if we just want to rehab the existing one, and if it's feasible when we do it. Again, because of the conditions currently in, we're now in the point where we've got to inspect it annually to make sure it's still safe for pedestrians to use. Messer Street Bridge for rehab. That was one of the ones we talked about earlier. In 2016, we did a partial rehab of it, and during that, they found significant deck problems on it. They didn't have the funds to do it, so they just basically did what they could and stop. It's continuing to deteriorate. We probably sometime in the future need to program the money to do the work, buy us the time till we can get it into the state bridge aid program. Questions?
Yeah, Wes, I have a couple. Discuss for me, if you would, how you determine the streets that you repair every year. I know you have a limited budget for sort of street repairs. The neighborhood that I'm in, as you may or may not be aware, is undergoing quite a bit of development, and a huge development is going to be right next door. We already have 2 working marinas at the end of our streets, and the roads are just getting pounded to crap. If the Lakeport is to be truly revitalized, I think the city needs to look at the infrastructure in the surrounding streets and the blocks around Lakeport Square, because we are already seeing more visitors to our neighborhood. And that, is a good thing. It's a good thing for the neighborhood, but it's also hard on our streets.
For first piece, we'll tackle one problem first, and that's Park Street. It's technically not a city road. It's one of the private, unaccepted ones that we're working through.
I'm sorry, did you say Arch?
Park,
Oh, Park Street.
yes.
Ah,
Park Street was never accepted by the city. So basically, it would have to be accepted at first, and underneath the current program, it would be accepted as is, which means it would never be rebuilt. It would just be resurfaced, keep it smooth. Now, we're keeping the project manager for Scott Everett's project updated on that, so they know what they can and cannot do with it. The other piece is all based off of condition assessments from the pavement management program. And then we have to look, what can we afford to do based off of ADA accessibility? If it has sidewalks on it and we touch and put a new road surface on it, we have to rebuild the sidewalks, which almost doubles the price. So we're being very careful what type of projects we do to be able to manage total cost of projects.
I believe Railroad Ave was never accepted by the city either. I did some title work on that a few years back.
That's an interesting, because we own the portion of it. We don't physically have to accept it. And then the state deeded to the city a portion up on the bay side. So most of it is actually owned by the city at this time and doesn't have to be formally accepted.
Well, regardless of its legal standing, the roads are in horrendous shape in our neighborhoods.
And we
And
understand that.
they're only going to get more use. So I'd like to see you address that in the plan.
And we address it again based off how much money and what the priorities are that established.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Mr. Anderson?
I do,
Yes,
Wes.
Counselor.
Thank you. Wes, did you say you were going to put in a pedestrian flashing light over by Vista?
We requested it in it. The
Okay.
basic information that we're having now from additional studies that we're learning on, I'll call it mid-block crossings, there's a requirement to have something based on the volume of pedestrians and the volume of traffic. And what we're learning is that's one probably needs something other than a sign.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I asked for that a long time ago, but that was when the state said they weren't you couldn't do it till they did the one that in Meredith, then they said you could do it.
There was actually a period of time where the federal government said we couldn't use the ones that we presently are using because it was patented, and the federal rules can't use patent products on public highways. They have the owner of the patent has since basically lifted the patent because he wanted the business.
Gotcha. The one on Beacon West, that one, it kind of got ran over within a month that it was put in. Now that one's really close to the road. Can you put a ballard there or whatever, a bollard?
We can put a bollard in.
Probably be a good idea.
Is, shall we say, we wasn't really paying attention.
Well, that's possible. There could be another one out there not paying attention either. So I think a Blvd there would work, probably both sides, and it might help with the plowing too, that they would see where the curb is, you know? Just a thought. The other thing is the voice crosswalks, at the crosswalks, the voice that comes on
Right.
counts down. The one at Church Street, is that being turned off at night?
No, because we can't.
That's the question.
The problem we had is a gremlin,
It's what?
and we couldn't figure out what was causing it to freeze and keep counting and actually activate the full pedestrian signal. They were troubleshooting it for quite a while, and the contractor think they figured it out and stopped it.
Okay, so the one at Elm Street, I don't hear that one, and I don't hear the one over here.
It's only activated when they push the button.
Yeah, but I don't hear it count down.
I hear it.
The one at Lakeport Square, I haven't heard that one. I've been there several times.
Okay, well, that's the chirper type.
Okay,
So every time we do it, we're learning more. So you should be hearing the chirper and the changes pitch when they push the button.
so that one does not count down.
That one does not count down.
And it's a chirping one also?
No. Each one's a little different. As more standards come in and more options available to us, we keep improving our what we're doing at the intersections.
So are you saying that one does count down at Court and Main?
Court Main counts us down. It counts down visual, and it gives a different code for the blind people to.
But it's not a person saying 10, 9, 8.
Correct.
Oh, that's what I mean when it counts down.
We can do it. We'll have to go back in and see what the cost is to retrofit.
Okay, so that was not made to do that.
That's correct.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Yeah.
The other thing is Union Avenue, Main to Guilford.
Yes,
I noticed you got that way out in now 2030 now.
because we based it on what we did and how long we think the shim will last.
Because that was supposed to have been done as soon as Court Street was done. So now this thing's got pushed way the heck back.
Again, it will depend upon which fails first, whether it's Union Ave, Stark to Blackbird, or this one. But the money would be there depending on which one basically has the problems first.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Anderson? Dean, did you have your hand up?
I did. Am I unmuted? Okay.
You are on the air.
I'm going to go back to the Morin Road landfill.
Oops. Right.
You said you sample on a annual basis and you spend about $10,000.
No, we don't sample annually. We've been coring to determine the extent of the trash in the landfill. There are no wells for sampling.
Okay. Do you know what kind of materials were disposed there in 62?
We have no records. So the only thing that we know is by what we found in the basically testings,
So what kind of material did you find?
household trash.
So there are no chemicals, no.
I mean, all we can tell by what we see from when we dug.
Okay. Did you get any lab analysis of the samples?
Again, it was just see where we're limited. Then we go to the next piece because we're trying to find the limits of the landfill.
Wes,
No
are we gonna
monitoring
have
wells
to-
are in?
Pardon?
No monitoring wells?
There are no monitoring wells in at this point. That's, as we keep progressing, they'll eventually put in.
Wes, is the city going to eventually have to cap that landfill?
Correct.
Then why aren't we moving in that direction now?
Money. I get $10,000 a year to be able to do all the steps involved, to do all the analysis for this.
Is there no assistance from CERCLA?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
I guess my concern is that if we have groundwater contamination, we could be looking at a significant cost.
Correct.
So
Just like we have at the Frank Burn dump. And the Morin and the Laconia disposal garden landfill.
Are we ever monitoring nearby residential wells?
We are required to monitor the wells as part of the Frank Bean Road burn dump. The Frank Bean Road burn dump basically is the house on Morin Road, the house at the top, if you know where I'm talking about, just above the industrial park. The houses and the offices associated with Frank Reed. Yes. Junkyard. And then the Gear compound across the street.
Okay.
So we'll get there eventually, but we can only go as fast as we have money. And since the city includes, we're on the hook.
I guess my concern is that if we keep putting this off and we don't get the tiger by the tail, the tiger may be getting bigger and bigger.
Again, it's all up to the city, huh? We go as fast as we have money.
I guess what I'm suggesting is that we ask the city for more money.
You can, but if you really want to speed it up, you're in the $200,000 to $300,000 range before you get to
Remediation.
Right.
Right. And I think, okay, anyway, I made my point. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anson. Are there any other questions for Mr. Anderson? Last call. All right, Wes, thank you very much. Always a joy to see your PowerPoints and see your smiling face. Not necessarily in that order, of course. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody need to take a break before we go on to the next presentation? I guess not. So we are expecting the Laconia Fire Department to make a presentation next, folks. It's always an exciting presentation. There are pictures of fire trucks and firefighters. Usually. You did bring pictures, didn't you, Chief? Mark can draw them.
And we're sharing and everything? Oh, boy. Good evening. I can hear you and you can hear me?
Yes, good evening.
Oh, all right. Good evening. I don't care how many of these meetings we do. I'm not going to get used to doing these way. Am I good to go?
I think so. You could tilt your camera up just a little tiny bit because we're getting a good view of your chin. There we go.
I want you to see all. I want you to see all of me. You know.
Do you want a dramatic introduction? I could give you one.
No, I think a non-dramatic would be fine tonight.
And gentlemen.
All right. Good evening, everybody. I think I know everybody, or everybody knows me. Kirk Beatty, Fire Chief. Here with our budget presentation. Start off by just saying thank you for having us tonight and allowed me to be here to present our capital budget presentation for this year on behalf of the fire department. start off with a little update of last year's funding. Probably the big thing was or the major thing we did last year was the funding for the Weirs Renovation project. Just as a reminder, it was carpeting, bathroom renovation, kitchen, living room renovation, windows, and one other thing. Oh, heating and air conditioning upgrade. And those bids were out. They're back. They're in the review process now. We actually had quite a few bids on it, so it's taken a little while. I wasn't sure what would get back for numbers of bids, but we're getting a lot back. So I was very pleased with that. So it's taken us a little while to get through all the bidding process, but very pleased with the proposals that we got back. We are still waiting on our delivery of our Weirs, our new engine that'll be coming in. That doesn't appear to be delayed too much because of COVID, which is nice. Still looking at January, February of delivery on it. They've been sending us pictures every couple of weeks. It's being built, and they're moving along pretty nicely on it. So we're pretty pleased with that. The new ambulance is in service as of about 2 weeks now. Picture of it, so it looks a little different than what we've had for the last 23 years now. For the style that we had, we went with this style. Everybody's very pleased with it. It has a new suspension system to it, and not being as heavy duty as the last one was, it rides a lot nicer. It's a lot more comfortable for the patient. They're already noticing a lot of the stuff. It handles phenomenally, so everybody's very pleased with this.
It
With this
looks like,
version, so.
it looks like on a smaller chassis, right?
Yes. Yeah. Instead of the larger chassis, it's on an F550 chassi. Same
Still
same size to work in the back of the ambulance. So
Good.
our providers didn't lose anything as far as the ability, the amount of working room, but the overall size of the vehicle is less.
Because those the others in service for some time are like heavy duty truck.
They are
chassis. Yeah.
And they ride like it. They were really
Yes.
good. We went to a bigger vehicle for a reason back when we first started buying them. It gave us the ability to have more room to work in the back. Now we're getting a better vehicle with the same size working room, and we've been very pleased with it.
Thank you, Chief.
2 weeks into it, but they're very pleased with it so far. I'll go into some of the modified requests that we have. The first one is our self-contained breathing apparatus, our air pack replacement. These are, ours will expire in 2023, the beginning of 23. They'll just run out of their allotted time. They won't be in service anymore, won't be able to be in service anymore by code. So basically what I've looked at for my purchasing timeline, we're presenting obviously in 2020. If we get successful acceptance of this, would be funded around the time the budget passes in July. Would start the bidding process and get that out. So would be taking delivery on them. My estimate is early 2022.
Did you try for any grants on those, Chief?
We didn't on this. The ones we currently have now are grant bought, but we have not tried any. And I don't know when the next AFG, which would be the one that would be able to get it off of, even comes out. We can certainly take a look, but we currently don't have anything out there right now for it.
Do you think you could look up and see if you could find anything out there?
I can, yeah. I mean, I can certainly look. We had success on the last round of grant funding for not only these, but we just got a lot of stuff on the last round.
Yeah.
We'll take a look, but no guarantees on it.
Yeah, it's understanding.
We're looking to replace, this is a utility vehicle that we have out of Central. We're looking to exchange this or change it, upgrade it with a pickup truck. We use it for a utility vehicle. It goes out for inspections. So when we do all of our mechanical inspections, our firefighters, instead of taking a piece of fire apparatus, unless they absolutely have to, they take this vehicle. It runs, if the Weirs ambulance goes out to a critical patient, instead of sending another ambulance or a piece of fire apparatus to help them, this goes to try to decrease wear and tear on vehicles. It goes out and does a lot of hydrant shoveling. This is why we put the plow on it. This has been it was brand new when we bought it. But it's on its third assignment within the department. And that's the picture of it, but it has already gone to auction. It wasn't able to pass inspection this year. So I actually don't have this vehicle in anything in its place right now. We have a Crown Vic that Danny was able to find for us at the city garage. At least we can use for now as a Band-Aid. But so this vehicle is actually out of service. So yes, it's replacing a vehicle, but it is, pretty needed at this point. This was a, I'll do it and write down the year it was. I know it had over 100, it had about 110,000 miles on it, and it was an 04. Originally, it started as a chief's car, went down to the deputy of EMS, and then became a utility vehicle. This has come up over the last couple of years as well. To try to replace ladder 2 that's in the Weirs. So this is it's a ladder truck that's in the Weirs station. Everybody hear me okay? Because I'm getting a ton of.
It's echoing.
Is it echoing? I don't know why.
That's the way it is.
Yeah. Okay. So this is our ladder that runs out of the Weirs station. When we're running at full staffing with the 3, we staff this with personnel, and it responds first due to anything in the Weirs that requires a ladder truck. It responds to any fires downtown or anything that needs, I say downtown Lakeport area, that needs a ladder truck as well. It's a 98 right now. We do utilize mutual aid for ladder trucks as needed, and Dyer Street Fire is a great example. Meredith came in, was able to be part of the fire, and we use them. The issue why I believe we need 2 ladder trucks is the biggest reason is if one of our ladder trucks is out of service, the other one backs it up completely anyhow, and it runs the entire city. We won't get automatic aid is what we call it, not mutual aid. Mutual aid is when we have a fire, we've already established it, and we've called for help. Automatic aid is coming in on the tone to a reported fire or a high hazard alarm like the hospital or 25 Union Ave, 765 Union Ave, those types of buildings. We're not going to get, our 2 closest ladder trucks are Meredith, which is not staffed 24/7, and Tilton, which is actually quite a run down Route 3 to get here. So we would not be able to use a ladder truck from another town in that automatic response, meaning that we wouldn't have a ladder truck coming for quite a while. So it is I think it's very important for us to have 2 ladder trucks in the city. Like I said, this is a 1998. It's it's an expensive purchase, but we also know that and this is for anybody who's sitting on the committee is going to shake their head how long ago it was, but the ladder truck that's downtown is 11 years old now. It's hard to believe it was 11 years ago that we bought it.
No way.
Yeah, it's hard to believe.
Yeah, I know.
So, at some point we're going to be, that still has another probably 9 to 12 years of life left. So I'm not saying we need to go out and get this tomorrow, but that's coming up too eventually. Replacing the engine that's downtown, that's a 13, so that's already 7 years old. So, instead of trying to clump large purchases like this together, I'm trying to spread them out, and this is the right time to be able to purchase something like this as far as how we have to replace some of our bigger apparatus.
Can I ask you a question on that, Chief? I probably brought this up before several times, but the Belmont ladder truck's out of service, right?
Yes.
Are they going to fix that?
No, that went away.
That's gone already?
That's gone away.
Okay.
No.
So I guess my question is, the taxpayers of Laconia, obviously your vehicles are the most expensive vehicles in the city. They're expensive.
Mhm.
And the taxpayers of Laconia, they paid $1 million for the one that's there now, roughly. And now another $1 million for this. And we send them to Guilford, we send them to Belmont. Guilford will probably never buy one because we go there. So I guess what I'm asking is, could we ask Guilford and ask Belmont to help contribute to this vehicle where, I mean, if there's a fire in Lowe's, they have nothing that's going to get the center of the building. Same with Shaw, same with the other department store there. To me, they should be sharing the cost of this thing because we send it there. I know they respond to us.
Yeah, and they do, and they do send a lot of help to us, you know, a lot.
Yep. But still, I understand that. What we send over there also, and they respond automatically along with Belmont.
Yes, they do.
If we have a fire in a building, you know, which is great. But where these are specialized vehicles and, you know, Belmont had one, they got rid of it. There's need for one over there. There's actually need for one in Guilford, but they won't buy one because the taxpayers of Laconia buy one and it's used there automatically. So that's all I'm saying is, could we have conversation with them to see if they would be willing to?
I mean, I think I don't want to pass buck along, but I don't know if that's my forte or is it our forte? You know what I mean? Is it our responsibility for that? Is that what would be, you know, I'm not trying to pass, say, well, I'm not going to go do it, but, you know, is that above my, you know, alone to do, or is that something that, you know, the select board and the council,
but, you know, it just,
the manager would have that conversation?
Yeah.
I'd be glad to be part of it. You know, if that's something, I know you, and you have brought it up before, you know, we've had this discussion.
We've had the conversation.
Had this conversation.
It just kind of irks me that, you know, like I said, the taxpayers of Laconia pay for these $1 million pieces of equipment, and Guilford, who could pay for that, there's people that could take that out of their pocket almost and pay for it.
Yeah,
and we pay for it.
You mentioned something that you knew I was going to say. They do send us a lot of help. They do. They are a huge benefit to the community.
True.
To us.
But we're huge for them.
We are a huge community. Yeah, absolutely. There's no question.
So I'm just saying that sharing on it, whether, you know, pay a third or 25% or something, you know, and they have the right to use it because we send it there. We pay for the repairs. We pay for the fuel. We pay for everything. And I just think it's time to regionalize. We talk about regionalization all the time. And there's probably no need for Guilford to get one, but there's no reason why they can't contribute to this either.
No, I mean, I think that's something that if you want me to have a conversation with the manager or the council at a separate.
Well, we both could.
I'd be glad to, you know, and we can go from there, but.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Forestry truck that's in the, well, I say it's in the Weirs. We actually relocated it to Central for the summertime. It'll go back up there for the winter time. 2 years ago, we replaced if you look at the picture there on the screen, you'll see the yellow hose and there's a tank in the back as the pump. That was a replacement that this committee helped us do a couple of years ago. Looking to replace the truck itself. It's a 2008. It actually was originally a DPW truck that we got painted and took over as a forestry. It's done well. City Garage has done a wonderful job. They've actually put a lot of work into this over the last few years to keep maintaining it. I'd like to upgrade it. A little bit more heavy duty vehicle. It's a lot of weight that it carries. It only carries it for the summertime. We do take that tank and everything, obviously, because the cold out of the back. So at least it gives it a little bit of a break on it in the wintertime. But I'd like to get that replaced. We do run this with a plow. It's the same thing I want to run with the other one with a plow. It probably cuts down our hydrant shoveling duties by, I wouldn't be surprised to say it cuts it down by a third of what we would have been out for time frame on. You know, we're depending on how big the storm is, 3 to 4 days out shoveling. I bet this cuts a whole day off by being able to use the plow, and looking to do it the same way down here as well. The other reason I always say a plow is we actually put these trucks in front of our ambulances during major snowstorms, and they go out in front of it. Usually it's our ladder truck crew that'll jump on it and go in front of them so they can plow a driveway. They can plow, you know, DPW does a wonderful job with the streets, don't get me wrong, but 3 o'clock in the morning when they've just got out and started, sometimes we get stuck. I mean, it's rare, but we can blow a driveway open and get through it, and have that ability. So that's actually something we've always done since we got a plow vehicle, and it's been very successful for us. So looking to get that replaced, and that way you would put the new plow truck with the new tank and pump system that we have, and I think it'd it'd be a nice vehicle for quite a while. Longer down the line, I don't have the year that I actually gave you guys. I'd have to look to see what year I actually put in there. This is looking a little bit more longer term stuff. Replacing the deputy chief's car VMS. This was original lease turn-in that we had received. It's an 08. It runs as it does run as an emergency vehicle, response vehicle. It's something we'll want to look at some point. And again, one of the things I always get asked is there alternative funding? Is there other ideas that we can use? This is we at the end of a budget year, when we see what revenue looks like in EMS billing, maybe there's a place that we can pull something like this out of a smaller amount of money, but we don't know that. But so I wanted to get it in here, but know that, that does cross my mind as some potential that, we could look at in the future as we see what revenue looks like EMS wise. We tried for a grant for this once, and we're trying actually for another one to get a set of rescue tools for the Weirs. We carry all of our rescue equipment on ladder 1, so the jaws of life essentially. We carry a big set of stuff on ladder 1 downtown. We carry we used to have a small set in the Weirs. They were old. They're no longer in service. The ladder truck downtown carries all the rescue equipment for rope stuff. We carry a small amount in the Weirs. We try to, so that way, because it can be a long time to get station to station depending on traffic, time of year, weather, all that kind of stuff. So this is just a simple tool. It's a little expensive, but this is the way that everybody's going now, is with these battery powered tools. I never thought I would say this. I never thought I'd say it. I'm gonna say the battery powered tools, they're incredible. We got some of our departments around us that have completely got rid of all of their old hydraulic tools with the hoses and went to these battery powered. They're so impressive. Looking for a small set now. We're actually trying for a grant to get a couple of sets so we can outfit both of our engines with them. So if the ladder can't respond to a car accident for whatever reason, we have a set with us. So hopefully that works out for us. Hopefully we can get a grant on it, but again, just trying to keep it on our radar. The last thing I'll talk about, until you have questions, is I know, look, the ambulance is 2 weeks old. I get that, but one of the things we've talked about we've talked about it at the council as well, is what does a replacement program look like? And I know I stood up here last year, and I think all of us, both at this and at the council, I think we sat there and tried to figure out, well, if you had 4 years and this is 5 years, and so I sat down and tried to do out in a chart form, so you kind of would see what it would look like today, 4 years from now, and then 5 years after that, and then another 5 years after that, would kind of see how this would actually progress out. So at the, as I have this blocked in me, at the 14-year mark, which is a long time from now, but at the 14-year mark, you'd be looking at having exactly what I wanted to set up. 5 years is the primary ambulance, 5 years is the backup ambulance, 5 years in the Weirs, and then it goes out. So we all knew it would take a little while to get to that point. But barring some type of excessive miles on it for some unforeseen reason, this does seem to march out to be workable. So, and that is all I have for you tonight. So thank you, and I'm sure I have questions. So,
thank you, Chief. Any questions for Chief Beatty?
I have a question about your ability to fight a forest fire. I mean, given that we've had a really dry summer, given what's going on out west, what's our ability to fight a serious forest fire here?
This forestry truck helps us a lot because we can get into the woods, we can do well. We've been fortunate over the years. We can do quite a bit on our own. We rely again on Guilford, Belmont, usually come in pretty quick. Meredith has a very nice forestry. They come in and help us. Once we get beyond that, we're like any urban fire department. We can do with what we have to do in the city of Laconia, where I think we're very good at it. if we were to try to get up into larger outside of our scope, we're not really equipped to do that. But I think we have the equipment and the ability to do anything in the city that we need to do. Just take time. But yeah, I'm pretty comfortable what we can do.
I live on Layton Avenue North, and there's whatever you call the hydrants that are down into the groundwater.
Yeah, we have one dry hydrant that's out there. Yeah.
Right, yeah. And is it dry? I mean, given that the water levels are down?
So no, we actually went out and checked them all, and the last time we checked them was about 2 weeks ago, and they were all still underneath the water level. So they actually go out into the lake. So
Okay.
We checked them. As of 2 weeks ago, they were still under the water level.
So there's a horizontal component that goes into
Yeah,
the lake.
it goes
doesn't
down, it
just
goes
go-
horizontal out
Okay.
into the lake, and then gets pulled out that way.
Okay.
We only have now, I would say, a handful of them that we actually rely on now. We used to rely a lot more on both Endicott streets, but probably 10 years ago now, we did that water expansion project and put pressurized hydrants out there, so it really helped us out a lot. But there's still places like right now where we're going to use that, and we're going to shower water in. It's going to be a combination of how we get water out there.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for the chief? Well, sensing none, well, thank you again for your time, Chief Beatty.
Thank you. Have a good night.
And same to you. And now moving right along, last but not least.
I almost didn't leave.
Our next presentation tonight is the Laconia Police Department.
Are we gonna get a copy of the fire department's?
The PowerPoint? I can get you a copy of everything and send it to you via email.
Yep, I'll send it to you tomorrow.
You got it. I'll get you Public Works as well.
Well, we have that.
Oh, yeah. you can send it.
Thank you.
Good? Everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Good evening. My name is Alan Great. I'm a captain with the Laconia Police Department. The chief had something else come up tonight, so he requested that I come and stand in for him.
Lucky you.
Yes, I know, huh?
Please proceed, Captain.
All right. So the first thing on our CIP is vehicles. Every year we go through 3 vehicles. These vehicles are based on mileage and the repairs that are needed for them. All of our vehicles right now, we still have 2 Crown Victorias in our fleet. Those will be replaced by vehicles that we just picked up this year. And then we still have, I believe, 3 sedans left in the fleet, and because we've moved to all the SUVs, the black and white SUVs. So again, with all the new vehicles, we're getting all new equipment in them. The stuff on the older vehicles, like the sedans and the Crown Vics, is stuff that's been recycled for years and years, along with new radios and new light bars and cages as well. So for that, $150,000 this year. Next year, we're looking to do a little higher on that. And that would be based on replacing our police motorcycle for the next year's request. That is a 2010. It's got about 50,000 miles on it, but it has been used for all of the trainings that the officers do. when they get certified on the bikes as well. So it takes some abuse during the trainings. Well, the normal day-to-day use, it doesn't take that much abuse. Our next line is police technology and training equipment. Year to year, we find new technology, new equipment that can assist us in making ourselves better training, and better use of the officer's time. This past year, part of that technology got funded was ProQA dispatch software. Thank you very much for that. That's going to be installed here shortly, which will help the dispatchers all the dispatchers will be asking all the same questions of everybody that calls in, no matter what the call is, it pops down pick lists that the dispatcher has to get answers to the questions, which will help give the officers better information before they get on scene and help keep them safer. So we don't have anything right at this moment that we're looking at as far as technology or equipment, but this will help us in the future rather than next year we go, oh, we really want to get this equipment and you've never seen the request before. So this will help us to be able to identify areas where we can improve and to be able to have that money available if we find something that we need to improve with. Portable radios. We're requesting $35,000 for that. Right now, we have enough radios for all of our officers, and we have one spare. If someone were to break a radio, and right now we have one opening. So if someone were to have a radio break and we filled that officer's spot, we would not have enough radios. So every officer's issued a radio. They have their own radio. They maintain it. Well, I say maintain it. They charge it. They make sure it's in working order. But for us to be able to have a spare in case, like, one of our officers was on bicycle patrol and he got hit by a truck, if that radio was broken, luckily it wasn't, then we wouldn't have enough radios for everybody. So we'll plan on purchasing 5 portables with this money, and then going ahead, as the radios have a 10-year lifespan where the manufacturer will still manufacture parts for them and will service them. After 10 years, they stop that. They don't make the parts anymore. If you can get a used part or an old stock, then you can get it repaired. But other than that, they don't repair them anymore after that. So this will be our replacement moving forward to attempt to purchase 5 radios every year. We have 42 radios right now. So this will keep them being replaced. So we have the equipment that's always working and up to grade. The last one is a enclosed impound building, equipment storage building, looking for not this coming year, but in 2022-23. Right now, our impound area is an open, fenced-in lot. We have several vehicles in there right now that it'd be better if they were stored inside. We still have the vehicle from the murder on Blueberry Lane. So items like that have evidence in them that could be degraded by sunlight or weather, it's better to have them stored inside in an area that's enclosed, where you can control the environment. We also applied for a grant and received the grant. We haven't got the final acceptance paperwork yet for a mobile command vehicle through the Homeland Security. That would be a place to have that stored as well. Last year, we had also asked for variable message boards. That did not get picked up by CIP, but we did apply for them through a grant, and we've received 2 of them. So that would also be an area for them to be stored inside as well during inclement weather. So looking forward to a couple of years out, that would be something that we'd be looking to do. Also under the Parks and Recs, I guess it didn't get spoken about, the security fence for around the PD parking lot. This is we have applied for a Homeland Security grant for this 2 years ago, which was denied. And we had requested this last year as well. We've had several incidents at the police department. We spoke about them last year. And just recently we had four vehicles, someone slashed the tires on 4 of our vehicles in the parking lot. One of them was a personal vehicle for one of the dispatchers as well. So this would help us keep people that wish to do bad things at the police department out. It would help us to maintain our security. And I know last year we had a subject come into the parking lot that was involved in a police pursuit, and he committed suicide in the middle of our parking lot as well. So those are the things that we want to try to keep out of the parking lot to keep our officers safe. There was also 2 AC units. The dispatch and the radio room 1 were approved. But we have right now we have a portable AC unit in our evidence room that we use this summer. And then also we would need one in the Sally port, a mini split, so it could do both heat and cooling. In the Sally port, we have no heat or any cooling in there at this time. So a lot of times we use that in the winter time for training, for taser training, ground tactics, stuff like that. So it'd be good to be able to get an AC unit in there as well. I think that's all I had. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions for the captain?
Yes, I have one.
Stacy?
Yes. The covert surveillance cameras, have they all been replaced, or do you still need more? And does that fall under your technology training equipment, or is that separate?
We received money in the non-capital reserve for those. We'd requested them last year. We received some money from the non-capital reserve, and we have those ordered. So we have 4 of those that'll be coming in somewhere around January 1st. So that'll give us 8. That'll give us 8 cameras.
Were those used in that recent raid on Bachelor Street? I think I read something in the paper about electronic
Cottage Street.
surveillance.
The Cottage Street. Yes,
Yeah.
we had one of those cameras was hung on a pole almost directly across from that building for several months.
And you can record everybody that goes in and out.
Yeah, it was all recorded, and they knew it was there. They watched us put it up.
Well,
Makes sense, right? Yeah.
yeah. Well, they might have thought it was for some YouTube promo or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Instagram. Yeah.
Right, and also during that incident, we also used our UAV as well for.
I think we saw
Overwatch.
video of that. Many of us. Yes.
Yep. So that was very helpful too.
Yep. Very interesting. Dangerous work too. Is there any other? Are there any other questions for Captain Grattan? Well, I guess you have answered all of our questions, and we appreciate your time and your and coming in at the last minute to rescue the chief.
Not a problem. Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
Have a
Thank
good night.
you. I think that concludes tonight's program. Do I need to go back to my agenda to confirm?
Actually,
that?
there's one more department that's going to present this evening.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, that's just the planning department.
It's just the planning department. Just the planning department.
Oh, yeah. Oh, what do you want?
So, some of you may know and some of you may not know, this last year, City Council approved a full-time position for a code enforcement officer so that we could take on some additional enforcement responsibilities and move from a part-time person to a full-time person. So with that position and being able to fill the position, we kind of need a vehicle for the person to be mobile. This year has been an odd year in that with COVID and personnel being out, we haven't been able to do any inspections really that person would be wanting to do. As we were short a person downstairs, leaving 2 people in the code department. So the building inspector could only go out and do the building inspector inspections while we had to keep somebody in the office to do permits. It's also, we don't have enough vehicles at City Hall to afford 2 people to be out from the same department all the time, which is what we want to do. So we would require a vehicle for that person. We put down for a price for $27,000. We're looking for a Ford Escape type vehicle that would have all-wheel drive so that this person could also do some building inspections as those begin to pick up speed, especially if Langley Cove moves forward. We would have to have our inspectors out almost every day to be looking at quite a few inspections. And to maintain that and doing the normal building inspections, we would need to have that second vehicle. Which then leads me to the second request, which is the replacement of the current vehicle for our building inspector, which is a 2004 Ford Ranger with 102,000 miles on it. Suffice it to say, the vehicle is almost in an unsafe condition. It has been in an accident itself where we luckily had Public Works bring it back to life for us. It's died several times at several job sites where we've had to get it towed back to Public Works. The brakes
Don't
have
you
gone
hate
on
it
it.
when that happens? Yeah.
It's very unfortunate. I think the building inspector finds it very comical when he has to call for DPW to go pick him up, though we enjoy it down in the office. Well, he's good sports down there. But suffice it to say, the vehicle is rather unsafe, and we need to have it replaced. And it would be the exact same Ford Escape that we'd be requesting for the code enforcement officer. And both of these vehicles would be all-wheel drive, since we are out every single day looking at everything, going through construction sites that are oftentimes very muddy, and you're not going to get out unless you've got four-wheel drive. So we're looking for all-wheel drive in both those. The last one on our department is scanning. Some of you may not be aware, there was a water main that broke in City Hall this last year, and it was located in our archive room where we keep all of our plans. And we have no digital records of any of our files. And a lot of those files date back to 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. And being able to preserve those, not only for projects, but the historical value of those files is vitally important. And then if we go look back, continue to look back in history of court cases that we've sent our files to, where we've never gotten them returned because of damage or whatnot, of the countless records that we've lost. And the only way to really protect ourselves is to move forward with the digital age and scan all of our files to fully preserve them for use now, and for those who want to do research later. I can't even begin to explain how important it is to keep those files. And you look double on that is how many projects do we have that come in every single year, and the cost of storage of those files. This last year, we recently spent about $1,000 buying file cabinets just to replace ones that had broken and to expand room for what we had. So if we look at needing to expand that file even more, the cost of digitizing becomes a cost savings venture. And we had it go out to, we got a quote a few years ago, and nobody ever put it forward for the planning department. So here we are now looking to do this, and that was about $15,000 to move forward on that. So it's vitally important. And to move forward with that same thing, it was presented to Parks, and Amy Levisek from Parks came out and reviewed looked at our department. We would like to renovate our department. And we're not looking to renovate for the cost of renovating and getting new furniture or beautification. We're looking to organize. We're looking to increase efficiency, and there's a reduction of manpower we're also looking at. So we have the cost forecast of it of $40,000, $10,000 for Amy to go out and get somebody to come in there and bid everything out and look at what we need to do to structurally change the surroundings to really unify the code department and the planning department. So we can have a cost savings of the manpower. And if we can get the scanning as well, we'd have a space savings as well. So those are our projects this year that we're putting forward. Does anybody have any questions for me for any of these?
Thank you, Mr. Mora. Any
You're gonna
questions?
spend 10,000 to plan.
Amy gave me a number of $10,000 for planning and engineering and legal fees for the remodel of our department,
Planning department.
of the planning department.
There's nobody there that could do this plan.
We don't have any engineers on staff. Well, I'm sure the building inspector would love to do it, and he would be very grateful in doing that. But he's definitely not an
Okay,
engineer.
there's a terrible echo right now. There's a terrible echo. If we can get rid of that. Thank you. Try it again, Rob.
We don't have an engineer on staff, is what I was explaining.
Right.
Rob, Peter Stewart.
Yes, sir.
The scanning, are you buying a scanner or are you going to send it out?
No, this would be a third party that would do so many files per week, and we would FedEx these files to their center, and then they would send them back once it was completed.
So the plans you get now are digital, I assume.
Yes, plans for the most part we receive now are all digital.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
So under digital, it says you're going to have an acquisition. It says you're going to have an acquisition.
An active position?
No, acquisition.
An acquisition.
So you're not going to have an acquisition. What you're going to do is
We're going to hire somebody to come in and, yeah. So this, you're right, it shouldn't be an acquisition. It should be well, I guess it would be an acquisition. We're acquiring the services of somebody.
That's not a capital.
No, it's not a capital. That's a
Any other questions?
ongoing expense of digitizing your files.
If it's over $10,000, we'd be forced to go out to bid for it, which would then force it to be a capital asset. We can't put that in the operating budget because it's not less than $10,000.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Mora? I just want, go ahead, Paul. Mr. Duggan?
Is that a
Dugan?
temporary hire or is it a permanent hire?
No, it's no hire whatsoever. It's a third party.
Okay.
It's a contract service and that's all they do is scan docs and return them. It's tedious work. And I used to do it actually. I just want to say one thing about the vehicles. Rob can attest to the fact that the issue of enforcement has come up recently before the planning board. In an applicant who had not been in compliance with a prior conditional use permit was attempting to amend the prior CUP, and the question arose more than once in the lengthy public hearings about, well, whose responsibility is it to go out and see that conditional use permits are being complied with? And oftentimes a planning tech will go out at the conclusion of a project in order to assure that all the conditions were met, but that doesn't always happen. And planning and zoning, for some reason, have been bifurcated for years in the city. So I don't believe that the building inspector, for example, would go out and ensure that these permits are being complied with. So I'm all in favor of the vehicles, and as long as we have warm bodies in those seats and going out and following up, because we do put an awful lot of time and effort into developing those conditions, as Rob can attest, and try to be as fair about it, of course, as we can.
That is correct, because as things get approved now, planning doesn't actually have its own vehicle, so we're at the mercy of, if the building inspector is not out and both the assessors are not out, then we can borrow a vehicle. If not, then we have to wait.
I thought that this stuff could happen at the speed of light, but it seems that it's the speed of sound. It's okay. It's just whoever's speaking in the council chamber, there's a like a 2-second delay. It's pretty interesting. I don't know if you guys can hear it. Are there any other questions for Mr. Mora? All right.
I guess my
sensing none.
question
Yes.
is around the digitizing. How long is it going to take to digitize the files we're talking about doing?
I couldn't tell you. It depends on which company goes out to bid for it. It's not a long process. It's several weeks.
And they're going to digitize not only 8.5 by 11 sheets, but they're going to do.
Now, this is just our plans. So it'd just be the large 24 by 36 files that we can't scan.
Okay. Okay.
So we can have a person devoted to enhancing our files.
Right. Right.
All right. Any other questions? Any other comments? Any business? Any other business? Sensing none. When is our next meeting scheduled?
The public hearing is scheduled for next Thursday,
Okay.
and that is all we have on the agenda for next Thursday is public input.
And what's the deadline for the scoring sheets and all that?
The ranking sheets will be due to us for October 29th, so there's no meeting for that day. I would like to ask the board, previous years you have wanted scoring sheets for enterprise funded items and everything else separately. Is that the board's wish for this year as well?
Explain the difference, so to speak.
So-
How would it affect the outcome?
Instead of having all of the items that are requested for, say, 2021 through 2022 on one sheet, it would be broken up into 2 sheets, one for items that are funded through enterprise funding, such as the water department or sanitary sewer fund, or items that are paid for through other means.
It occurs to me that that might be more useful for the council, don't you think?
I believe it was more useful this year for the city manager and making decisions.
Yep. Okay, thank you. All right, then. There being no other business before us, I want to thank you all for your service and for participating in the meeting tonight. We will see you again real soon. May we have a motion to adjourn, please?
Motion to adjourn.
There is a motion made. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Good. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.